When the Galactic Federation welcomed humans into their ranks, they expected resilience. They expected adaptability. What they didn't expect was a full-scale radiation crisis over something as ridiculous as a sunburn. Lieutenant Jackson never thought much about his skin. It was just there covering his muscles, keeping his insides inside. But after one routine planetary survey, his skin became a galactic emergency. The planet was nothing special, standard atmosphere, mild gravity, a bit on the warm side. Jackson spent hours mapping terrain and collecting samples under the bright yellow sun. He barely noticed the slow heat creeping across his exposed arms and neck. By the time he returned to the Federation research station, his skin was tingling, a dull tightness settling in. No big deal. He'd had worse. But to his alien crewmates, it was a different story. It started with the medic, a Zalari named Drinka. The moment Jackson rolled up his sleeve to scratch his forearm, Drinka recoiled, multiple eye stalks fixating on the inflamed skin. "Lieutenant," they stammered, voice rising. "Your epidermal layer is deteriorating." Jackson blinked.
What?
Drinka's scanner hummed, its display flashing urgent red warnings. Cellular degradation, massive dermal damage, possible radiation poisoning. "We need to quarantine you immediately." Before Jackson could protest, alarms blared across the station. The automated emergency systems kicked in, sealing off sections as biohazard warnings flashed across every monitor. Crew members scattered. Doors locked. Jackson was shoved onto a medical gurney and wheeled at top speed toward isolation. "Guys," he tried, voice muffled under an oxygen mask he definitely didn't need. "It's just a sunburn." The aliens weren't listening. Drinka barked orders into the comms. "We have a confirmed case of epidermal radiation failure. All personnel, initiate Level 3 containment." Jackson sighed. This was going to be a long day. He was dragged into the quarantine bay, where a sterile containment field hummed to life around him. Outside, a growing crowd of concerned aliens watched in horror. The whispers spread fast. "He was fine this morning. The radiation must be inside him. Is it contagious?" Jackson pressed his fingers to his temples.
For the last time, it's just
a sunburn. The aliens only seemed more horrified. Drinka pointed at Jackson's arm, where his skin had turned a deeper shade of red. "The condition is worsening. We must inform Galactic Command." A dozen beady eyes stared at him, waiting for the inevitable collapse. He just groaned and leaned back against the wall. Within minutes, emergency reports were dispatched. The station's distress beacon activated. Across the sector, ships received a chilling alert. Unidentified radiation exposure detected. Possible lethal contamination. Human subject deteriorating. Immediate assistance required. Somewhere, a Federation admiral sat up in alarm. On distant planets, entire medical teams scrambled into action. And in the quarantine bay, Jackson? Jackson was just wondering if they had any aloe vera. The Galactic Science Council dispatched an emergency medical team to assess the situation firsthand. They expected to find a human in critical condition, barely clinging to life. Instead, they found Jackson sitting on the quarantine cot, arms behind his head, looking mildly annoyed. Dr. Varul, the lead scientist, hesitated before speaking. "You are still conscious?" Jackson rolled his eyes.
yes.
Varul turned to Drinka. "Has the epidermal collapse stabilized?" Drinka shook their head.
No.
"It's worsening." Varul's eyes darkened. "And yet he remains functional." Jackson sighed. "Because I'm fine." The science team began analyzing his medical data, their concern deepening with each reading. They reviewed human biology records and quickly discovered something that alarmed them more than the so-called radiation damage itself. Humans evolved under constant radiation exposure. Their planet was bombarded daily by ultraviolet radiation from their home star. Instead of perishing, their bodies developed natural repair mechanisms to deal with the damage. Varul stared at the findings in disbelief. "This species has built-in radiation resistance." Another scientist gestured at Jackson's red skin. "Then why is he changing colors?" Jackson shrugged. "It happens when we get too much sun." A little pain, some peeling, and then it's over. Drinka nearly collapsed. Your skin sheds. Jackson rubbed his forehead. You're making this sound way worse than it is. The scientists, however, were too deep in their own theories. If humans could take direct radiation damage and recover without external treatment, that meant their species possessed an unheard-of level of durability. Viruel turned to his team. We must reclassify humans under high-resilience species. Their ability to withstand radiation is unlike anything we've seen. Jackson snorted. You guys should see what happens when we get a tan. Drinka paled.
A what?
Jackson grinned. Sometimes, instead of burning, our skin just gets darker. No pain, no peeling, just a color change. The room fell silent. The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. A species that could absorb radiation, change color, and continue functioning without issue? That was practically a superpower. Dr. Viruel cleared his throat. Lieutenant, I must ask, what other effects does your planet's radiation have on your species? Jackson smirked. Oh, plenty. We got people who spend hours under the sun for fun. Some even use oils to intensify the effect. A researcher shuddered. They enhance their radiation exposure? Jackson leaned forward. And get this, some humans go into machines that artificially increase UV radiation just to darken their skin faster. A stunned silence followed. Then, Viruel muttered, We have severely underestimated this species. Jackson grinned. Yeah, you have.